voice to No Kings in America! No Kings in America! No Kings in America! We hope to see you again. Our program today starts with some time between now and 11:30 for you to greet your neighbors. A big part of the purpose of these rallies is for you to see each other, one another, the people who feel the way you do about what's happening in our country. So please turn around, move around, also visit our tables. Just to give you an idea of our agenda, from now till 11:30, we'll be singing, we'll be welcoming, we'll be asking you to move around, show each other your signs, march over there, along Route 7, but stay on the sidewalks. Remember that joy is an act of rebellion, so there will be singing.
Where do you want to go?
At 12:45, after our speakers, you'll be invited to march by following flags and a drummer, and that will start here. The route is simple, and we ask that you follow it.
Can I get?
All right.
Today, okay, is that better? Today, there are over 35 registered protests in Vermont and over 3,000 in every state in the country. At protests, we show our friends and neighbors that we care deeply about our democracy and do not accept authoritarian rule. During the last year, Indivisible Middlebury, which is your host for today, has organized and hosted hundreds of protests, rallies, vigils, marches, and sing-alongs. The hallmark, importantly, the hallmark of these protests is peaceful, nonviolent action, bringing our communities together. The theme for today's gathering is Take Action Now. And how can you take action? We'll describe that more fully in a moment, but I'd ask that you please check out the tables. Spencer's going to describe them soon. I'm Annie, and now a song.
So one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, reminding you of, as if you need any reminder, is that we are being threatened by the encroachment of fascism. And approaching us now are signs of fascism. You may have seen these on the Cross Street Bridge. They've been out there for weeks. Scholars have recognized that fascism begins in a rather subtle way. They don't disappear overnight. They erode gradually. What's concerning is that many of these signs are now present in our country. So the signs, here they come. So here are some examples that you'll see on these signs. Fascists using secret police. Extreme nationalism. Erasing and faking government data. Controlling media. Pardoning criminal loyalists. Normalizing corruption. Using fear to gain power. Racial profiling against minorities. Labeling minorities as enemies. Replacing science with ideology. Intertwining religion and government. Rewriting history. Using the military on civilians. Denying reality with lies. Glorified military aggression. I'm afraid all of this is now becoming familiar here, and that's what we're here today to combat. This is one of something like 35 similar demonstrations throughout the state of Vermont, and over 3,000 across the country. You are part of a very powerful movement, and we've got to keep it going. The theme for today is Take Action Now. So we will be talking about ways that you can take action.
The folks that you see in front are actually signs of democracy, which is what we are hoping to restore. Thank you. We have speakers now, and our first speaker is the Reverend Elizabeth Gleich, pastor of Congregational Church of Middlebury United Church of Christ. Elizabeth is a Minnesota native. She's a mother of a 2- and a 4-year-old and a pastor here for nearly 7 years. Elizabeth is passionate about building loving community with special attention to those on the margins. When the call went out in mid-January for clergy from across the country to be trained in resisting ICE occupation in our cities and towns, with less than a week's notice, she answered, with 2 little kids, mind you. She spent 2 days alongside clergy, 600 clergy of all faiths, learning the reality on the ground and taking part in actions that expose the unjust treatment of immigrants in the Twin Cities. And that Friday, one day before Alex Pretty was murdered, Elizabeth stood with 50,000 other Minnesotans in negative 40 degrees. You think this is cold? To march against ICE in her home state. She came back with a story to tell, and we need to hear it. Please give a warm welcome to Reverend Elizabeth Gleich.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you to the No Kings Committee for this invitation. As Annie mentioned, what? As Annie mentioned, what feels like a lifetime ago now, I did travel back home to Minnesota, and what I witnessed there has indelibly changed me. Over 600 clergy, pastors, rabbis, imams, priests from every faith tradition, from every corner of this country, answered a call that sounded like this. Dr. King put out the call to Selma. We're putting out the call to Minneapolis. We came to pray and to sing. We came to learn what life looks like under federal occupation, to hear phrases like democratic backsliding and authoritarian breakthrough. Not spoken as abstractions, but as lived reality. We came to walk the streets as witnesses and to say with our bodies that God has always been and always will be with those who suffer at the hands of the powerful. One bitter afternoon, 200 of us joined ICE watch patrols in the neighborhoods most affected by enforcement. Wearing whistles in many layers, we walked block after block, greeting immigrant shop owners, standing visibly with those who live in fear. Others packed food at local churches for families who can no longer leave their homes safely. Others visited memorial sites of Renee Macklin Good and also George Floyd. The next afternoon, as Annie mentioned, 50,000 people marched through downtown Minneapolis in bitter, bitter cold weather, demanding that ICE leaves the state of Minnesota. It was overwhelming. It was devastating. And it was beautiful. Against all odds, I felt hope. I met women in South Minneapolis who are out every single day, still to this day, shepherding students and teachers safely to and from school. I heard from pastors delivering thousands of pounds of food daily to people who can't leave their homes. I stayed with my own sister Mary, who, with a small group of moms from her Minneapolis Catholic parish, has now to this date raised over $191,000 to pay rent for families who can no longer work. and who are showing up with groceries, diapers, breast milk, legal assistance, and rides to the ER and urgent care. Despite what you might hear in the news, this work continues there. The need continues there. At an interfaith service I attended, a rabbi said that Minnesotans have shown the rest of us what it means to truly stand up for your neighbor. Loving God and loving neighbor in ways that are concrete, courageous, and sometimes costly. He reminded us that knowing and loving your neighbor is not only our calling, but is one of the most powerful forms of resistance against the fascist movement trying to divide us. Friends, we know here in Addison County, good neighboring. We care for each other. We are already working to keep our neighbors safe, and we need to keep doing it. I'm so grateful that Thelma from Migrant Justice is here to speak next, because these are the people and organizations and coalitions who are leading the movement here in Vermont. And on this No King's Day, I need to say it plainly. The ways of empires and unjust rulers are not the ways of love, justice, and mercy. We are here to bear witness to a different world, a world of abundance and dignity for all people. Tomorrow morning, Christians around the world will celebrate Palm Sunday, another march, another protest where the people threw cloaks on the ground, waved branches, and welcomed a Messiah who just days later would be executed by the state for saying things like, "Blessed are the poor, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the peacemakers, love your neighbor as yourself." But we also know that this is not the end of the story. In the empty tomb, we claim that another day is possible, that even when the powerful appoint kings who stomp on the necks of the vulnerable, faith will rise in each other, in our community, and maybe even in our nation. Hope will still rise when our leaders find the moral courage to end the unjust violence to the most vulnerable. And love, the greatest of these, will rise. Say it with me. Love will rise. Love will rise. Love will rise. Love will rise. Thank you.
One of our neighbors is Thelma Gomez, who is an activist for migrant justice, and she's here today to talk to us about that with her daughter.
Hello, everyone. Everybody has to be patient because I don't speak very well English. So I'm gonna read, and also Renata going to help me today. My name is Thelma. I'm part of Migrant Justice and part of immigrant community here in Vermont. Migrant Justice is a grassroots organization funded and led by immigrant workers for Fight for Human Rights. We are living through hard times right now. The powers that be don't care about human lives or human rights. Everyone is at risk in one way or other. The persecution and criminalization of my community is wrong. And so we join together to resist. Our families must don't be separate. ICE must be abolished. We fight for our collective liberation. Since Trump came into office, the federal government's attacks against us have only gotten worse. We saw a then increase in immigration detention in Vermont last year alone. Last spring, Border Patrol chased workers through a dairy farm in Franklin County and ripped 8 of them away from us. Shame! Last summer, Border Patrol agents smashed the window of Nacho and Hades' van to drag them out after racially moved traffic stop. On March 11th, ICE collaborated with state and local police officers to illegally detain 3 community members from their home in South Burlington, brutalizing dozens of protesters in the process, despite the fact that no one of them were named on the warrant. And now, just 2 days ago, ICE voluntarily detained Nacho again outside his work. These are just a few of the more than 120 immigrants Vermonters whom we had to fight to release them from immigration detention over the last year. But let us not forget how many of them we are as community unite but love and rage have freed. Max and Jose are free. Arbe is free. Heidi is free. Joanna is free. And now we fight again to free Nacho. After so many wins and so many public actions, we know the ICE is angry. But we won't let them intimidate us into silence. So we are here strong to fight until we have freedom all. Nobody is illegal on a stolen land. Immigration is a human right. So let us raise our voice together for thousands of people who have immigration officers have disappeared into detention centers. For all those who have died after hands of ICE and Border Patrol. For Roger Jimenez Perez, who died at just 19 years old in ICE detention in Florida of presumed suicide, although we never know the full circumstances. For all those whose families who have been left behind. So, ¿quieres cantar?
Repeat after us. El pueblo
unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
justice will prevail.
Justice will prevail. Justice will prevail. Justice will prevail someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe justice will prevail someday.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you, Michelle.
So I'm very pleased today to be able to introduce Bill McKibben, well known around the country, around the world as a journalist, book author, and climate and democracy activist. But we're fortunate. We know Bill McKibben as a neighbor and as a friend, as a cross-country ski and hiking enthusiast. And this may surprise you a little bit. He's an optimist about climate change. If you've read his latest book, Here Comes the Sun, he believes that alternative energy, or not alternative energy, sun energy, is bound to triumph. So Bill also is the founder of Third Act, and he's marshaling the energies of people over 60 to fight for the climate and to fight for democracy. So let's hear what Bill has to tell us today. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, brother. What a pleasure to be here today. So much for me, because I haven't gotten to be here in the last of these two great days. This time when people asked me to come elsewhere today, I just said, I want to be home with my neighbors. And that's because neighbor is the word of the year this year, after what we watched in Minneapolis this winter. You know that I like technology, solar panels in particular, but the most important technology of 2026 has been the whistle that people were blowing to summon their neighbors in defense of their neighbors. Because we are in an emergency. Since the last No King's Day, we've watched the federal government execute Renee Good. We've watched the federal government execute Alex Pretty. We've watched the federal government invade Venezuela. We've watched them launch the most stupid and pointless of possible wars in Iran. America has become a careening, out of control menace to the rest of the world. Now, there have been plenty of presidents I didn't like before, but there's never been anything like this. You know that at Third Act, we organized those of us over the age of 60, and I'd wager there might be 2 or 3 people in that category here today. In fact, I would bet that there are a few people over 80 out here in the crowd today, so raise your hand. And I say that because our country is celebrating its 250th birthday this summer. If you're 83 or so, you've been around for a full third of that American history. And that provides you with a real baseline to to understand just how weird and abnormal and wrong it is what we are doing now. I've been talking the last few weeks to many of our older third actors, people in their 80s or 90s or their hundreds. Many of them not still able to get out for days like this, but very active in this fight. So we've been videotaping them to get their remarks so we can spread them around. I've talked to a woman whose sister died of polio, and now she has to watch our public health authorities stand by while measles spreads across the country. Measles! I've talked to a man who took his naval commission in the aftermath of World War II, and now he gets to watch the President of the United States announce that he will bomb more Iranian cities because, quote, it's fun, unquote. I've talked with one of our third actors who came here from Mexico in the 1960s and built a tremendously useful life as a pillar of her community. And now she carries a passport with her everywhere because her accent makes her a marked woman. I've talked with one of our colleagues who integrated her school system, who can remember her family having to take out food from the back of a restaurant because they couldn't go in the front. And now she has to watch as Stephen Miller launches his racist crusade. They are tired of it. We are all tired of it. But we are not tired. We are going to fight. Now, that fight is not going to be easy. Donald Trump has already looted the American economy for the benefit of his family. He's weakened our status in the world to something like a pariah, destroying old alliances and friendships. He's given away the clean energy technologies developed in this country so we can drill for yet more oil. But he has given us one good thing. By the time this is all over and done, we're going to have the biggest goddamn ballroom in the history of Western civilization. And before we turn that sucker into the most gold-plated affordable housing in American history, before we do that, we're going to have a meeting there. We're going to gather normal people from every corner of this country for a people's convention that plans for a fairer, cleaner, safer, much happier future. Because we cannot just go back to where we were before.
That's right, Bill.
We know that's not good enough because it produced the mess that we live in now.
That's right.
We have to put this country on a new footing, one that puts billionaires in their place. And the place for billionaires is being millionaires instead. A country that doesn't just stop deporting immigrants, but that starts welcoming them. A country that lets all Americans grow up into healthy, secure adults in healthy, trusting communities. If we're going to do that, though, we have to do the work of this year, of 2026. And that work aims toward November 3rd and the day we start taking back real power. We can't just win these midterms. We have to use Mr. Trump's favorite word, dominate them. The administration is a careening car right now, doing endless damage and scaring everyone. On November 3rd, peacefully, nonviolently, electorally, we have to park that careening car in the ditch on its roof. without hurting the soul, we have to turn it into that Pepsi truck that slid off I-89 on Friday. Which means a lot of things. Now, you're not going to see much of me the rest of this year because I'm going to be off in Alaska and Texas and Ohio and Florida and the places that we absolutely have to win. But you all can be very, very important parts of that fight too. Phone banking, letter writing, all the rest. It means figuring out ways to help around the country because I am confident in my prediction that Becca Balint is going to be all right in our election. We need to come together to do this work, and if you don't have an easy home to do it from, we welcome you at Third Act. Whatever your age, we don't check IDs. But we're very good at mobilizing people in blue states to help in red and purple states that we have to win. Look, the last time we did one of these No Kings Days, the president responded that evening by tweeting out a video of himself in a crown flying a little airplane across America, dropping excrement on our heads. That's a very good sign. That crown rests on an uneasy head. We are winning now, and together we will win decisively. And when we do, we will return to this green for one hell of a party. And then we will get to work making America all that it should be for the next 250 years.
Mike Pichek, he's been Vermont's state treasurer since 2023. Mike is a native Vermonter, grew up in Brattleboro, and he's always focused on giving every Vermonter a fair shot at success. He's taken initiatives to make investments in housing, to lower the cost of prescription drugs, and programs to help Vermonters retire with dignity. Mike is an outspoken opponent of this administration's attacks on our immigrant neighbors. Recently, he co-founded the Vermont Immigrant Legal Defense Fund to support and expand legal resources for organizations protecting asylum seekers, immigrants, and marginalized people facing deportation or detention. So thank you, Mike, for coming today. Let's hear what your message is today.
Hey, good morning, Middlebury. Thank you so much, Spencer, for that introduction. And can we get a big round of applause for the Middlebury Indivisible for putting together such a great event this afternoon? Hey, when I look out into this crowd, I am filled with optimism and I am filled with joy. Because I see everyday people coming together to say clearly and loudly that in America, we have no kings. And this is the third No Kings rally. And every time that we have come together, we have stood a little taller. And every time we've come together, our voices have been a little louder. And every time we've come together, we've made Donald Trump and the MAGA movement a little smaller. Now I gotta tell you, this moment we're in is bigger than Democrats versus Republicans. This moment that we're in is all about right versus wrong. And in that battle, in that battle of right versus wrong, we don't just need Democrats. We need Republicans. We need independents. We need progressives. We need moderates. We need everybody in between. Quite frankly, we just need anyone with a backbone. Anyone who has the courage to stand up and say clearly and loudly what is wrong. It is wrong for Donald Trump to sacrifice American lives for an aimless war in the Middle East. It is wrong for Donald Trump to do everything in his power to cover up for his rich and powerful friends. It is wrong for Donald Trump to send federal agents into our communities to terrorize our neighbors and rip them away from their families. And it is wrong for Donald Trump to take health care away from so many millions of Americans who are in such desperate need of care. My friends, these things are wrong, not because they are policy failures. They are wrong because they are moral failures. But we also have to remember, the moment that we're in is not because of a single broken president. It's because of a broken system. A system that for far too long has worked way too much for the people at the top while leaving everybody else behind. We feel this in Vermont. We have been priced out of our homes, priced out of our health care, priced out of our communities. We are feeling this across the entire country. And when you have a broken system, it's far too easy for a demagogue like Donald Trump to come in and start pointing fingers at each other. Pointing fingers at each other rather than our common enemies of poverty and hunger and injustice. He points the fingers at Americans, at communities, pitting us one against the other. Just 2 weeks ago, we saw this play out in South Burlington. Masked, armed agents coming into our community, deploying tear gas, instilling fear, all in the pursuit of the wrong man. We can't let that be normal. And Vermonters didn't let it be normal. Vermonters stood up. They showed up. And just like every other part of this country where this resistance has been successful, it's because of the people. In South Burlington, in Minneapolis, in special elections all across this country, it's the people that are showing up to push back. It's not the Congress. It's not the Supreme Court. It's not a particular political party. It is all of us as the people of this country. Because it gets back to the very fundamental principle of today. The power in America always rests with the people, not with a king. So Middlebury, we have 7 months. We have 7 months until November 3rd. We have 7 months until the people can show up and vote and take back our power. For the next 7 months, let's keep showing up. Let's keep fighting. And Middlebury, keep taking back your power. Thank you very much.
Run, Mike, run. Run, Mike, run. Run, Mike, run.
Oh.
Run, Mike, run. Run, Mike, run. Hey. Mike, run. Run, Mike, run. Run, Mike, run. Run, Mike, run.
Just as an aside, Indivisible Middlebury does not endorse any political candidate.
David. How you doing?
Actually, you guys got a hold on.